I am your host, as always, Mystic Raven, and today we're going to be going over something a little unique. We're going to compare the Molag Kena and Julianos with Molag Kena and Clever Alchemist, and possibly Julianos and Clever Alchemist 5-5 switch. Now, typically, I have the Clever Alchemist on my tank, as many of you know, and I love it. Love the Clever Alchemist on the Nightblade tank. You know, the sap tank with Clever Alchemist works really well. So, um, I watched a video that somebody had told me about, and they were using the Clever Alchemist for a DPS set, and I'm like, I see where the potential lies. The problem of it is resource management, and then when you're in between time, you're 15 seconds with shit ass DPS. So, so, anyways, I wanted to do this video, and I wanted to make it all legit. So don't worry, people. We have made most of this, like a 95% of all of these items gold. So what you're going to see is what you can expect. So let's get into it, shall we? First off, you're going to see the gear here, and as you can see, we run the 5 Julianos along with the Molag Kena, and for the weapons, we have the Torox pack. Everything's Nirnholm, our head is infused, our chest is infused, shoulders divine, 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 and legs are infused. No surprise for those who know how to properly trait their gear. So, when we take a look at our stat sheet, this is kind of what you can anticipate. We push around about the 20k mark. I can, put a point or two in there to get it up there, but we allocated everything into Magicka. Max Magicka is, with this setup, 41k, and our base spell damage without any buff is 3,259. Now keep in mind, people, that all of your crits derive from your base damage, and our spell crit is 52.3. So anytime we crit, whatever our base is, that's what we're going to crit from, is our base damage. When we take a look at the boon, we have the Apprentice, increasing the spell power. So first thing I want to go ahead and do, we're going to run a similar rotation, and I'm going to go ahead with both bars and show you kind of what we do. Oh, and speaking of, I guess I should swap and show you what my back bar's sitting at, stat-wise. Now, stat-wise, spell damage, we're at 28, 34, and 41 still, and now we are over the 20k mark. So that's why I said, these are really good stats, and we can proc Molag Kena and push out the damage, and I'll kind of get everything into that with you. I'm gonna grab this cornflower. I know I'm such a harvest freak, people, but you know what? I do all my own crafting, so I'm sorry about it. Okay, now first thing I want to do. Okay. Now see, you saw 49, and sometimes if I can get the other weapon to proc, I'll push that over that little 5k. But ideally, I'm at the 5k mark consistent. Okay, so we get about 10k without the proc. But let me go ahead. We're gonna kill a bunch of stuff here, so you guys get the idea of what we're doing. Okay. There's about a 19k. Okay. Once again, we're going to go ahead proc. There's a 21, 17. Okay. Now, it's kind of interesting also, when we take a look at AoEs, this works out really good. I do not use a buff bar. Okay, so ideally, what we have is an AoE, and then we run single target. AoE, I use Sap Essence, that's my builder. We use Unstable Wall, Refreshing Path, Storm Pulse, Inner Light, of course, And since I am a vampire, I run bats. Now, if I want to push out a little bit more DPS, I could go with the meteor, but shooting star is on my front bar. Okay, so this is my range single target bar. We kind of teeter-totter between these two. We go with Reaper's Mark for the resistance, and of course our Impale for our finisher. Okay, so I want to do a little bit of AoEs here, kind of give you an idea of what we're running with. Okay, now that's called layering AoEs, guys, and I will do a video on that in the future for those people who do not know how to properly layer their AoE. But for the most part, you know, this is what I run typically in dungeons, is this setup. And it works out great for me. I can't complain about it. Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to actually keep the Molag Kena set going on and the Torox pack. We're not going to change any of that stuff. But what we're going to do is change out with the Clever Alchemist. Kind of interesting here. Like I said, I have the Clever Alchemist. Now, this is the only piece. Remember, I said 95%. Because this is the only place I didn't have enough to make gold. But don't worry, everything else is gold. I do, when I do my testing, I do take this serious. Because I don't want people to say, oh, you know what, Mystic, it's because you didn't have gold. And, oh, Mystic, it's because of this. You know, I'm not one of those players that like to hear that. So, I want to basically, you know, shut down any critics. And, okay. So, as you can see now, we have the five piece of Clever Alchemist with Molag Kena and the Torox packs. Okay? And they're both Nirnholm. Alright, now, when we take a look at our character sheet, as you can see, we still have the 41, but we have a lot more health. Why? Because, you know, Clever Alchemist has double health. Now, if you look at our spell damage, though, our base spell damage went from 32... Oh, I'm sorry, I need to be on my... From 32 to 3,085. So we do see a slight drop. And as you can see, it's whatever. And we see the same effect on the back bar, about 100 and something, 200 difference. So, you know, it's not too bad, but it's kind of interesting here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a little different because we actually, we're going to proc the Clever Alchemist and Molag Kena, and I will show you the spell damage. If I can find anything big enough. I do want to grab that, but I won't. I'll refrain for now. Alright, let's see where we're at. Any trolls down here? There's usually an Ecotread or a troll. We'll find something. I don't want to do the honkers. I mean, I typically do the honkers. Yes, it's a runestone taunting me. I'm aware. Oh, I'm a Rubidite Ore. I can't restrain myself. I will. Okay. Alright, guys. So let's go ahead. We're going to hit this. Now, when we take a look, we went up to 46. But that's without our builder. Gonna have to do that again. I messed up. Now, surprisingly enough, it does work out really well. And as you can see, I just got my mark leveled up. I don't typically run mark a lot unless I'm doing certain things, so that's why. Alright, so let's do this again. $5,522, but you can see it. It's a short drop, and that's the hard thing with trying to get all these to proc. It's very short-lived. When you drop your base down low, sure, you're going to get one or two really big hits, but you're going to drop consistently. You know, it's not, you're going to get maybe one big hit. Now, if you're in PvP, like, somebody was when I watched a video, of course you're going to get the one hit that may make a difference and kill another player. Not saying that's not the case, because in PvP all rules are pretty much thrown out the window. So it is interesting though. You can hit 5-5, and it's very achievable. With Julianos and Molag Kena, you're hitting about 5. So you're getting about 500 more, but it's very short lived. And remember that your potions usually have about a 15-second cooldown just to pop another one. So that's another problem within itself. Now I also wanted to try out this little technique, doing a potential 5-5 switch with Clever Alchemist and Julianos. So it's kind of interesting, because I just was like, well, let's go ahead and try it, because I'm a big fan of 5-5 switches and maximizing. And we'll go ahead and show you guys the stat sheets on this and how we set it up. As you guys can see, both of my swords were Julianos. I'm going to use the Clever Alchemist Lightning Staff. Now, we're going to switch this out with our Julianos head. We're going to keep our Clever Alchemist chest. We have arm of Julianos. I know I have too much stuff, people. I'm very much aware, and this isn't even everything. Yeah. Nope. Well, yeah, we keep that. Okay. Now, as you guys can see, we have 4 Clever Alchemists, and at this moment, we have 5 Julianos. Now, when we switch back to the staff, now we will have 3 of Julianos and 5 of the Clever Alchemist. Okay. And when we take a look at our stat sheet, now here's a decent thing. It's 2,535. Now, it has dropped a couple hundred points, and when we switch to this back bar, we're at 3,130. So it's not as of a dramatic drop compared to Clever Alchemist Molag Kena base versus Julianos Molag Kena base. And I kind of like that, because I was like, that is actually not bad. When we also take a look at this, we look at our magic pool, which was sitting at 41. Now we're at 43, and also our max magicka is now at 21. Our max health is at 21. So 43 and 21, that's pretty good stats too. So, and of course we go back, we're at 42. So overall, for a 5-5 switch, this actually looks really good as far as the base numbers go. We're covering all the essentials. We have a little bit more. Now, ideally, you want the Molag Kena for a proc effect for a burn, typically in dungeons or PvP, depending on what you're using it for. But what's really nice about this, you get the same effect with the Clever Alchemist, because with the Clever Alchemist, all you have to do is drink the potion. Now let's take a look at this a little bit more closer and take a look at this. You get a 661 boost, right? With Molag Kena, you're only getting 516, and you're getting a 33% cost. You're not getting that cost effect with Clever Alchemist, and if anything, you're getting your regen if you slot magicka or stamina. Now keep in mind, this also can work with Hundings, because what Julianos is basically a carbon copy of Hundings for magicka. That's what it is. So it kind of really burns my ass when someone's like, oh, Julianos is good for magicka, but Twice Born Star is better for stamina. Well, why in the fuck is that? Because they're basically essentially the same fucking sets. So, just one's stamina oriented and one's magic oriented. If you guys don't believe me, look it up. It's kind of interesting, but we'll go through it here. Now, I'm actually just going to go ahead and still do the proc here on and it's pretty comparable. Now, with the Molag Kena, mind you, I hit the 21, somewhere around there. But I'm not going to spend as much magicka. So I'll lose a little bit, maybe, but overall, I'm kind of getting that. Now, here's my problem. My AoE damage will drop. And that's concerning versus mobs. Now, if I go ahead... now, I can... And I'll show you guys the number once I get it. Okay, so we're at 4.9, and that's pretty comparable to what I was running before. So, I mean, maybe a few points off, but not much. And keep in mind, the thing I'm trading off is I'm getting more magicka, and I'm getting more health. Now, magicka isn't always a big deal. It just depends on how many mobs you have and how much you have to burn through your rotation, especially in long fights. Because if you don't have a high-end regen, you can spam quite fast and burn your resources pretty quick. Okay, we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to do this again. $4,966. Okay, so we do see a little bit of a drop there, and it's kind of interesting, people. And this is the way I would play this, to be honest with you. Personally, I could see a setup like this being used for PvP. I could also see the Clever Alchemist and the Molag Kena for PvP. You're going to hit pretty decent numbers. The Clever Alchemist is going to give you survivability where Julianos doesn't have, max health. 5.5 typically for dungeons. I personally would still stay with Julianos, Pack, and Molag Kena. It just has a better base to it, and it's, it doesn't take away from your AoE damage, nor does it take away from your single target damage. This combo does, but this 5.5 switch would actually be very useful in Maelstrom. It'll give you a little bit more life, a little bit more extra magicka. You add a triple statted food with it to give you the stamina for the dodge roll, and now you have a heavy competitive setup depending on your loadout for Maelstrom grind. And to me, that's kind of relative. So I'm definitely not going to downplay the Clever Alchemist. I would say that Juliana still outperformed Clever Alchemist because, ideally, like I said, Clever Alchemist, you're going to be having to use resource management. Julianos is consistent. Once again, Molag Kena, great proc effect, but once again, you're going to burn a lot more in your cost to in your spells to get that effect. But when you're looking at the burst damage and you're looking for the initial burns, it's great. Clever Alchemist with Molag Kena, not ideal for dungeons, I would say. I mean, yeah, you've seen it, people. You can get 5,500, but it's very short-lived. It's one hit. Then all of a sudden, the rest of your DPS is shit the entire time because you are suffering because of your base damage is down. I wouldn't say it's really worth it in dungeons, but for PvP, it definitely would be fun. If you like the video, please feel free to subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, or even any ideas on how the Clever Alchemist has worked for you, please post below. I'd love to read it, kind of see what everybody's liking or not liking about the Clever Alchemist, or any of the other sets that's mentioned in this video, and I'll go ahead and respond as quickly as I possibly can. I do want to thank everybody for watching, and once again and always, have a nice day.